You're listening to the Oddscast, the original UFC betting podcast that's straight to the point. Hosted by leading MMA oddsmaker Nick Kalikas and MMA journalist Brian Heminger. They provide you the absolute best UFC betting info, picks, statistics, and analysis from the most respected authority in mixed martial arts betting. MMAOddsBreaker.com. Don't place your wagers without us.
Welcome to the Combatecast, presented by BetDSI. I'm Brian Heminger, joined today by leading mixed martial arts oddsmaker Nick Kalikas to break down this Friday's Combate 41 event, which takes place in Fresno, California. Nick creates the opening betting odds for Combate America's events, so he will break down the top 6 fights on this card, providing extensive analysis and a pick for all top 6 fights after doing film study and research for the event. Now, Combate 41 will air on the TV networks Univision and TUDN and the streaming service platform DAZN this Friday night. Let's dive right in. Now, the first fight that we will be discussing is a bantamweight contest between Jose Avalos, who is 3-2, and Trey Branch, who is 2-3. Now, Nick, where did this fight open, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I open Avalos minus 355, the comeback on Branch at plus 265. And right now, looking at the market price on the Donbest screen, it's minus 370 for Avalos, the comeback on Branch at plus 305. So line margins have tightened up a little bit, and there is two-way action coming in on this fight, but a little bit more, obviously, a little bit more thrown into parlays as well. And I'm expecting people to bet Avalos more so than Branch. I mean, if you look at the resume, Branch, just on paper, I mean, he's a 2-3 fighter. A lot of people aren't going to respect a below 500 type of fighter, but he's not that bad. I mean, if you dig into it and watch some of his fights, I mean, Branch is actually a pretty talented fighter. He's well-rounded, and he's a lot better and more talented, I guess, than his record indicates truly. Now, even as an amateur, he did struggle a little bit. He was 3-4, but you could tell his improvements along the way. So overall, I mean, like I said, if you look at his resume on paper, not that great, but if you watch him fight, the guy does have some skill on the feet. He's fast. He has a little bit of power. He's got jiu-jitsu. He's got some wrestling, but unfortunately for him here, he's a decent dog because Avalos is just a little bit better than him in all areas. I think Avalos is going to be the stronger fighter, and I love the way he fights. I mean, he's heavy-handed. He's an aggressive slinger. He works well behind his lead hand and throws with KO power each and every strike he throws. And when Avalos gets in a groove, when he finds his momentum, he's really hard to stop. So that's the problem here. I think Branch, regardless, I think he's going to be a tough fight. I don't think it's going to be just an easy cakewalk for Avalos. Branch is going to definitely put up a struggle in each and every area, but I think Avalos is going to kind of land a little bit heavier. He's going to be the aggressive bully in his spots. He's going to be the one that, if it goes to the ground, is on top as well. So I really believe that Avalos can win this fight if it hits the scorecards. If it doesn't, if he stops it inside the distance, it's kind of his fight to win or lose. So I had to open a little bit higher. I do think it's going to be far more competitive than people realize, though. So at this point right now, I would probably stay away and not bet the favorite. As the line is right now, as it sits, it's kind of tough to bet. It's probably a dog or pass situation, but I don't think Branch is going to get there. So sit back, watch this one, or even maybe, like I said, if you guys want to throw fighters in a parlay, I do think Avalos wins. So maybe throw him in a parlay, a fun parlay to watch this fight. But the pick overall is Avalos. He should get it done here. And overall, early action says he will as well.
Now, moving on and dropping down to the flyweight division, we have Paul Elizondo Jr., who is 2-0, taking on Mike Tubera, who is making his professional debut. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I open Elizondo Jr. minus 345, the comeback on Barrera at plus 255. And right now, looking at the Donbest screen, I am seeing Elizondo minus 355, the comeback plus 290. So line margins have tightened up a little bit. Line holding steady right now. I mean, both of these guys are very talented. You want to talk about extensive amateur records. If you look back, I believe Tubera is 14-5 as an amateur. So that's a lot of experience before making his pro debut. So he's ready. And if you look at him, man, he's a really solid fighter. He's more of a wrestler, grappling based fighter. His stand-up's really not that bad. He's quick. He's got some power, fast hands and feet. Usually throws pretty aggressive, but mainly to close the gap and try to look to fight, to take the fight to the ground as well. But man, he's fun to watch. He's got good grappling, power takedowns. And once he's on the ground, he's really smart about things. I mean, he gets positioning first, and then looks for some ground and pound and looks, to submit you. Now, the problem here is he can be put on his back. And even though he's a pretty decent scrambler, he can be controlled at times as well. So I think in that regard, Elizondo comes in here as the better wrestler. He has a wrestling background as well, and he's a legit prospect, man. Just going through the footage and the research on Elizondo, you could really tell. I mean, he's 27 years old. I mean, he's put together so far a 2-0 record. Again, he has some amateur fights as well, and the guy is definitely more developed than a 2-0 fighter. He's really impressive. He's really strong for the weight class. He has good striking, solid wrestling, and grappling. His throws, again, he's got the takedowns that he'll slam you. He's got some impressive slams and everything across the board. So I like what I see. He was undefeated as an amateur. He's so far undefeated as a pro. He works actually in the past. He's worked with the likes of Daniel Cormier's striking coach. So he's got a lot of decent experience. I believe he's trained at Team Oyama as well. So there's a lot to like about Elizondo, and he's a true prospect, like I said. So you have two fighters here that are well-rounded, that are going to bring it and just have every tool to use in this matchup. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be competitive, but I think Elizondo is obviously the rightful favorite here. That's why you're seeing him at over 3-1. I just think he's going to be, again, a little bit too much for Tubera. Tubera is going to be game, but I just think the power is going to be the difference here. And I think Elizondo is going to be a step ahead of him as well. So again, not much movement here. There is two-way action coming in this fight. So where the betting line is right now, I think, again, maybe throw the favorite in a parlay, because I think most of these favorites so far, we're going to get into more fights obviously here in a second, but I think it's going to be a lot of these favorites pretty much cashing as we go. So this might be the type of card that you do look for parlays more so than not. The pick is Elizondo Jr. to come through.
Now moving up to the featherweight division, we have Adrian Guzman, who is 4-1, taking on Cesar Gonzalez, who is 2-3. Now, Nick, where did this fight open, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Guzman minus 1,400, the comeback on Gonzalez at plus 700. Right now, looking at the Donbest screen, we are seeing Guzman down to minus 665, the comeback on Gonzalez at plus 425. So needless to say, the betting public came in on the high opener at plus 700 on the underdog and came in and smashed that line. They're all coming in thinking that this is going to be a far more competitive fight than the line I set. And it could be. I mean, I think, no disrespect to Cesar Gonzalez, the guy actually is a pretty well-rounded fighter. There's no doubt. I mean, the guy has a little bit of everything. The problem I have here is that he's a solid, durable, well-conditioned fighter, but he's nothing special on the feet or the ground. He just basically has an average skill set. He's got a little bit of KO power and some wrestling, but nothing really a huge threat that he's going to come at you with. So I don't think he's going to be able to hurt Guzman. I don't think he's going to be able to get the fight to the floor and sub Guzman either. So this is going to be a very difficult fight for him. Guzman, on the other hand, man, I've been nothing but impressed. He's 24 years old. He's a young prospect. I mean, I like what I see from him so far. In his last fight, I mean, if you want to, I'm going to cut to the chase right away. If you look at it, I mean, Guzman he was fighting one of Combate's best, and Froggy Estrada in his last fight. Guzman, man, he took it to him. That was a good fight. He was really looked for a moment there that he was going to win the fight. He had Froggy in trouble, but he did make a mistake, and that's where he still lacks a little bit, is defensively speaking on the ground. Sometimes he can make those mistakes. Froggy took advantage and ended up subbing him and getting a W there. But Guzman is legit. Again, that was his first loss. That said, I do like what I see from Guzman. He's a heavy-handed slugger. Like I said, pushes forward with really heavy lever. Everything he throws is with serious intent. I like his knee attack from the clinch, and he has some nice head kicks to go along with it as well. But at times, like I just mentioned, his aggression does lead to some defensive opportunities, or lack of defense, I should say, that maybe Gonzalez could take advantage of. But I just don't see it. So I think that's why everybody, through film study, through some of the research, are seeing some of the holes Guzman does have, and I think Gonzalez can exploit that. I just don't think he's the guy to do that. So I really think that this is going to be a really good fight for Guzman, obviously by my opener. And you know, like I said, I think that honestly he's probably going to come in here, even though Cesar Gonzalez is a very solid, durable fighter. I think Guzman has a legit shot at finishing this fight before it goes too long as well. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think Guzman is going to actually KO Gonzalez as it goes. Maybe late round 1, early round 2, but somewhere along that time, I think Guzman does find his spot and he puts him away. So it'll be a nice highlight reel type of win, I think, for Guzman. And as the price drops, obviously there is some value. I never want to lay 600 chalk. You know, I never want to recommend that type of play to most people out there, but you know, when there's value, there's value. I mean, most of the time we try to look for, you know, obviously cheaper prices, but I do think there's a little bit of value at that minus 665 or the minus 500 price tags that you're going to see on Guzman right now. So he is parlay material, to say the least. I think you throw him into some parlays, and I think you'll be pleased at the end of the night. So I get it. The big price tag, the underdog was attractive to a lot of you guys out there, and who knows, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think it's going to be a good night for Gonzalez. So the pick is Guzman, and like I said, you could throw him in a parlay and see what happens, and just hope for the best. I think he does come through.
Now, dropping down to the bantamweight division, we have Isaiah Batten Gonzalez, who is 4-0, taking on Jesse Strader, who is 4-1. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
I open Gonzalez minus 145, the comeback on Strader at plus 115. And right now, looking over at the market price on Don Best, we're seeing Gonzalez minus 163, the comeback on Strader around plus 143. So a little bit more action coming in on the favorite Gonzalez. I'm not really that surprised. I figured that's the way people are going to bet this fight, honestly. And I expect it to kind of keep climbing a little bit. I mean, if you look at it, these guys are, again, two serious prospects. I mean, Gonzalez is 4-0, Strader's 4-1. Combate has done a tremendous job finding talent and putting it together, especially on this card. I think there's a lot of talented prospects that are going to be future champions one day, so there's a lot to like about this card. So definitely check it out. And this fight is one of them. I mean, this is definitely a highlight on this card because you got Gonzalez, like I said, 4-0. He has a boxing background, taekwondo background, so he's basically a striking-based fighter. He's a striking coach, actually, for AKA, so the likes of Daniel Cormier, Khabib. He's got a ton of, obviously, high-level training partners in the AKA gym that he's been working with for a while, and again, he's a striking coach there as well. So with that said, he's a complete MMA fighter, though. It's not all about striking for him. He's got some serious length for the weight class. For 135 pounds, he's tall, so he's got that reach advantage. And again, offensively, he's really fun to watch strike. He's got some wrestling and some jiu-jitsu to go along with it. So this guy has a complete game now that he's been training with AKA and, again, teaching as well. So he's a prospect to watch. I'm not surprised with people coming in that way. But Strader is another guy, again, that I've been impressed with, honestly. He's a striker with some wrestling to go along with it as well. And if you look at his boxing, it's pretty clean. He works well behind his lead jab. He throws flurries and combos. He digs to the body well. And again, he's another one of these guys that he finds his momentum and he finds his timing, man. He's hard to stop. He pushes forward. His strike D bothers me a little bit, but I could say the same thing for Gonzalez. I mean, this is the problem with this fight. Offensively, these guys are really talented. Defensively is where they lack. Even Gonzalez, you expect, honestly, if you look at some of the footage from him, you would expect him to be a little bit better defensively, but he's hittable. And at the same time, his cardio kind of lacks. And I think that's two areas that Strader can take advantage. Now, Strader's strike defense, again, is not the greatest. I mean, he's taggable as well. So these guys are going to have success back and forth on the feet, and it's going to really depend on whose chin can put up with what here, and more importantly than anything, I think. But as the fight progresses, I think that Strader might utilize his wrestling, get some top position along the way, and I think he could start having a lot more success than Gonzalez because I think he has the cardio advantage as well. So basically, to me, this is a dog or pass situation. So if you're looking for underdogs on this card, I think the popular opinion is going to be Gonzalez, and a lot of people are going to be looking to bet Gonzalez with all the hype. But to be honest with you, I think if Strader can survive early on and not get clipped, I think he's probably going to win this fight. I think he can win this fight by knockout. I think he could actually win it on the scorecards as well. So it's a dog or pass situation here. So the public's going one way. I would actually go the other way. So we'll see where the line goes. I think it's still going to keep climbing. So it's one of those games where you got to kind of time to try to get the best price, but it is a dog or pass situation. So my pick is actually going to be Strader here to pull off an upset. And I think he probably will come through in what should be a fun fight to watch.
Now, moving on to the co-main event of the evening. In the welterweight division, we have JC Lamas, who is 8-7, taking on Ivan Castillo, who is 17-12. Now, Nick, where did this fight open, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I open Lamas minus 825, the comeback on Castillo at plus 455. Right now, looking over at the Don Best screen, we're seeing 825 plus 455. This line's fairly new. A lot of books are still adding it as well, so there's not a lot of movement quite yet on this fight. Again, Castillo coming in as a replacement fighter, actually, so he's coming in on super short notice, and that's why. But as far as line goes, obviously I opened it really high for a reason here. I mean, if you look at, again, on paper, you have almost a 500 fighter in Lamas. He's 8-7, and you're looking at Castillo's record, he's about 17-12. So on paper, not the greatest resumes or records, but Lamas, for almost being a 500 fighter, he's way above and beyond that. He's a really solid fighter. He's a savvy veteran. He's much better than his record indicates. I mean, I like what I see from this guy. He's tough as nails. He's durable. Obviously, I mean, if you look at his nickname, Leglock Monster, I mean, the guy is definitely a ground specialist, and you do not want him to get a hold of your leg. He's devastating in that aspect for sure. I mean, you can get in some serious trouble with him, but it's not just his leg locks. I mean, the guy has some pretty decent jiu-jitsu. He has got some okay wrestling go along with it. He's a pretty good athlete. I was impressed. I mean, he's the type of guy that could throw spin kicks. He could throw some jump spins as well. I mean, he's got some athleticism. So I think Lamas is a handful because his durability and just the matchup here against Castillo is going to be really a good fight for him, a good replacement for him, because he was an underdog coming into his fight before. Now all of a sudden he's an 825 favorite so this is definitely an easier spot for him. Now Castillo, no disrespect to him, I think he's an okay fighter, but if you look at his overall record, it's really padded. His wins, I think for the most part, are over not so great opponents. And if you're looking at him fighting, I mean, he's another one of these fighters, I think, that he's a well-rounded fighter, but he just doesn't excel in any particular area. So he's not going to blow you away with his striking. He's not going to out-wrestle you to death and win a decision that way. He's not going to really get you on the ground and submit you quick-like. I mean, most of the wins he has by knockout and submission are coming over below 500 fighters or fighters that aren't really up to his level or up to that experience level at all. So this is a big step up. And every fighter that he has faced that were actually kind of above his level, he hasn't beat. So this is just one of those problems. I think that Lamas is just too far ahead of him. He's just too much of a solid fighter. And Castillo just doesn't have a path to victory here. I think if he wins this fight, it's going to have to be by kind of a fluke KO win early. I mean, if he lands a jumping knee or just lands a big head kick or something like that, then it is possible. But outside of that, I really don't see him winning this fight. I think Lamas is going to have, like I said, a highlight reel type of finish. I think he finishes him either in round 1 or again, early round 2, and he gets him out of there. So unfortunately for Castillo, I've seen some problems with his cardio as well. And for him taking this fight on short notice, that's not going to bode well for him either. So should be a fun matchup because I think Lamas is going to go out there and put on a highlight reel type performance and probably get a finish. So the pick is Lamas, and another one of these spots where let's see where the public action comes in. If they're dropping the line because they're seeing value on Castillo with a 500 type of record with Lamas, then again, throw Lamas into parlay because I don't see him losing this fight.
Now, moving on to the main event of the evening in the women's flyweight division, we have Zoila Frausto, who is 14-5, taking on Reina Cordoba, who is 9-1. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I've been Frausto minus 325, the comeback on Cordoba at plus 245. Right now, looking over at the Donbest screen, it is minus 350 for Frausto. The comeback on Cordoba is plus 285. So line margins have tightened up a little bit more action coming in Frausto's way. Not surprised. I mean, if you look at Cordoba, she's kind of, for the MMA community in general, she's not, a very well-known fighter. I mean, she has a pretty decent resume. If you look at her 9-1 record, she comes from Costa Rica, actually. And I've been ringside at one of her fights before in the past, so I've seen her fight personally. And she's a pretty good fighter. I mean, she's one of these fighters, again, that's really durable, tough. She's aggressive. She has a judo background. I mean, she's definitely a ground specialist. If you're watching Cordoba fight, even though she has some power on the feet, she's not a striker. She doesn't want to strike with you. She's not going to mess around with you. I mean, she's going to throw some punches again and attack you to try to close a distance and get the fight to the ground. But once she gets it to the floor, she is a problem for a lot of these ladies. I mean, she has good jiu-jitsu skills. She's got good ground and pound, and the way she has her judo throws and the way she lands, she sets up these arm bars. They're pretty slick. So she's a good submission artist. She's a durable fighter. She's tough. So Frausto is going to have a lot of problems if this fight does hit the floor. And that's exactly the game plan here. You have basically a throwback jiu-jitsu fighter in Cordoba, or a ground specialist, I should say, because she's more than just a BJJ fighter, against a striker in Frausto. Now, of course, Frausto is, I think, one of the all-time great females. I mean, if you look at, the history of the women's fighting in MMA. I mean, Frausto is one of the originals out there. She's one of the bigger names, and, she's been around the sport for so long. I'm glad Combate, signed her and brought her back, and she comes back and performs well, and she's got a couple wins on her resume as of late as well. So I think Frausto is actually hitting her groove, and at age 35, she still has a lot of fight left. I mean, she's talented, and like I said, she's won back-to-back fights now. I think her confidence level is definitely getting in the right place. And then on the feet, this is a blowout. Frausto is such a better fighter. I mean, I think Cordoba can be dangerous because, I mean, if she lands, I think she's going to land with a little bit of power. So Frausto has to be careful. But Frausto's a tough chick. She's durable. She's never been knocked out before, obviously. And then her precision on the feet and the way she mixes it up. I mean, Cordoba's going to be in some serious trouble if she cannot get this fight to the ground. Now, Frausto, obviously, she's more than a striker these days. She's been working extensively on her overall MMA game. Her takedown defense is improving quite a bit. Her submission defense has improved quite a bit as well. So she's ready for this fight. I really do believe that. And I think it's going to be another great one. So really, styles make fights. Can Frausto keep this upright and pick Cordoba apart, or can Cordoba get this to the ground and work her ground game and try to submit Frausto? So that's the interesting factor here. And I think both ladies have a path to victory. So another well-matched fight here and an intriguing fight. So my pick is actually going to be Frausto because I do think that she's going to be able to pick Cordoba apart. And I think she's going to be able to make it clear enough, even if Cordoba is durable enough, they'll make it to the end of the 3 rounds and hit the scorecards. I think Frausto is going to be able to win a decision. Now, that said, Cordoba might be able to get this to the floor. And if she does, I think Frausto's submission defense has improved enough that she could probably survive and get this fight back to the feet as well. So I think Cordoba's going to be game. And like I said, she has the path to victory here, no doubt. So you got to be cautious if you're going to lay the chalk here on Frausto. But I do think it's Frausto's fight to win. And I think she keeps her momentum rolling here. And again, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be pulling for her to win this fight as well. But both these ladies are definitely, fun to watch and something to definitely keep an eye out, even in the future. If Cordoba does lose this fight, I think you're going to see her pull off some quality wins here on the Combate Americas, obviously circuit as well. So keep an eye out for Cordoba, win or lose. But Frausto, if she can get this win, I mean, she's definitely going to have momentum going on her side, and we could potentially see a future title fight for Frausto here. And she could be Combate's women champion. Let's see, at 135 pounds, 125 pounds, actually. That's where this fight's taking place at the flyweight division. So I would love to see Frausto wearing championship gold, and let's see if she could take that next step here. But the pick is Frausto. I think she's going to be a little bit too much for Cordoba to win.
So that'll do it for our full event breakdown for Combate 41. Special thanks to BetDSI. Good luck, everyone, and hopefully the betting gods are on your side this Friday.